Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind. Welcome back, everybody. Here we go again.
Hi.
Hey, Lauren, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
Busy as usual.
Good. Yeah, well, I guess good, right?
I mean, yeah, it's better than bored, I guess. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Boring is good sometimes.
Boring is good for like a day. And then I feel like this is like I've talked about, some of my husband's coworkers are like retiring and close. And I was like, I feel like when I retire, I'll need something though. Because
yes.
And then all the time doing nothing, I would definitely be too bored. So, but I right now I feel like work is too much. So I need a happy medium. It needs to be closer to retirement. I am not there yet.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, let's drink some beer.
Let's do it.
So we're going to have Dogfish Head, which I'm surprised we've never gotten around to because they are pretty popular. And we're going to drink their beer, which they are located in Milton, Delaware.
Yeah.
So we're back on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. We've kind of jetted back and forth there now and then.
Yeah, we have. Now we're heading up northeast.
I was going to say, this is up north a bit, though.
Yeah, I don't know if we've been this far north, but...
Okay, what are we drinking first?
We're going to drink... What are we drinking first? Their 60-minute IPA. So this is actually one of their best-selling lines. They have a 60-minute, a 90-minute, 120-minute, and then a specialty 75-minute. But it denotes the length of the boil with which the hops are continually added. So the longer the hops are boiled, the more bitter they are. This is their least bitter of this kind of line. So...
Cool.
We're going to give it a shot.
I think I've had this before, but I know I've had the 90-minute.
I have had... Lots of head. I have had a variety of these. I worked on a client for a short while that was up in New Hampshire. And we definitely drank some of these when we were out there. But that was probably literally like 15 years ago. So
sure. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've been up to that area.
Yeah.
But
a little while.
Yeah. So
pre-children.
Yeah, pre-children, definitely. Pre-marriage, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Pre-everything. Well, it smells like an IPA. Super heady from my pour.
Yeah.
It's more bitter than a lot of the IPAs we've had lately.
Yes.
But we also had a lot of New England IPAs or like other. So this is a just straight up IPA, no variants, no flavors, just beer.
But it's clean and crisp. It is bitter. You're right about that.
Yeah.
Has a pretty mild aroma. Mm-hmm. I do get the IPA smell.
Yes.
But it's pretty mild. It's pretty subtle.
Yeah. You could tell that it's an IPA, but it's not overwhelming by any means. Mm-hmm. Like when you give it that smell. But it does have the distinctive kind of aroma that IPAs generally have. And there's no questioning that this is an IPA.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no doubt you drink it and you know exactly what you're drinking.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me about Dogfish Head.
Yeah, so I didn't know a ton about them. All I knew was kind of they were on the East Coast, and I've heard a lot about them. They have a variety of different beers, but they've been around since 95, actually.
Okay, wow.
So Sam and Mariah, their husband and wife, Sam started brewing in his New York City kitchen. With 3 small kegs and tiny propane burners is how he started.
Like the turkey fryer setup?
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. So they started producing at about 10 gallons a day back in 95 when they opened. They got up to about 15,000 gallons a day in 2018. They actually wound up merging So they're technically owned by Boston Beer Company now. So we've talked about them already, but this was, built separately. So they were bought in 2019, but Sam and Mariah, they weren't fully bought out. They actually more of a merger because they converted their Dogfish Head stock into Boston Beer stock. So when they merged, they actually became the second largest non-institution, non-bank, whatever owner in the merged company of Boston Beer Company. So they still own a good percentage, a good amount of stock in that. So they didn't relinquish
this subject when it came up.
So they didn't relinquish anything. They didn't just sell the company. They still stayed as part of the business, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they now have 3 ale houses. So they still brew in Delaware. They have 3 ale houses, 1 in Maryland, 2 in Virginia. So you can go and get some beers on tap and whatnot. The name Dogfish Head is actually named after a place. So it's named after Dogfish Head, Maine, where Sam spent his summers as a child. Oh. So this is an actual named after a place, which I had no idea that it was named after a place.
Who wouldn't want to go further north in the summer?
Right? Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know what the weather's like in Maine in the summer, but
I was in northern Michigan in August, and it was cool. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's not gonna be
hot.
It's not Florida.
No.
So they're known for kind of some unique beers. They're known for, like I said, their IPAs, but they've also had a bunch of different notable odd beers created over the years. So they had a malt beverage that was liqueur de malt, a bottle conditioned malt liquor that was sold in a brown paper bag.
Awesome.
Which is the part that I kind of love.
Yeah, that's necessary.
They had a raisin flavored beer named Raisin d'Etre.
Oh, I've had that too.
Have you? Okay.
Yes.
I have not had that. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be good. I just liked the name.
To me.
Even better or worse, they had a beer called Verdi Good, Verdi, that was a green beer, and it was green not because it was artificially colored. It had blue-green algae in it. Ugh. So I have no idea how that tasted. But, again, some odd beers. Then they had one called Pangea. Because it was a Belgian-style ale made with ingredients from every continent. So it had ginger from Australia, water from Antarctica, rice from Asia, and these were actually from those places, not just in, honor of.
Sure.
Sugar from Africa, quinoa from South America, European yeast, and North American maize.
Oh, wow.
So they actually touched all of the continents. Yeah. They were on the Discovery Channel in 2010. They were the focus of a series called Brewmasters. Okay. Which I did not watch, and I haven't looked up, but I feel like I'm going to.
Yeah, I think I have to find that.
So just giving kind of an inside look at brewery operations and things. So that's kind of cool. And one thing that is very unique about this brewery, which I think is pretty cool, is they have some beers that they call ancient ales. So what these are, and they make one of them they produce year-round, is beers produced in collaboration with a molecular archaeologist from the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So they're beer recipes that are based on chemical analysis of the remnants of liquid found in drinking vessels from archaeological dig sites.
Oof.
So they have 4 different beers that they have brewed. One called Midas Touch Golden Elixir is currently produced year-round, but it's from the tomb of King Midas, dating back to the 8th century BC.
Okay.
And at the time of that it was discovered or found, it was actually the oldest fermented beverage recipe ever found.
Wow.
So it is not now. However, one of their other beers holds the record for the oldest fermented beverage recipe discovered, and it's a 9,000-year-old recipe, over 9,000 years, for an ale discovered in a village in China.
Oh.
So they have 4 different ones that they have produced, but like I said, the Midas is actually produced regularly, and they base them off of archaeological things. Like,
That's
I just think it's
really
really
awesome.
Cool. So, yeah.
I really like that.
So there's our fun facts about Dogfish Head.
Those were good, man.
Right?
I'm never, I often feel like at this point I'm not going to be surprised. Like, you're going to tell the story and it's going to be kind of, they've made beer in their basement and then they're
They're
found
home
a
brewers
place.
and then they did this and then they
Or they
whatever.
knew
and
somebody who had a restaurant and they started making beer for the restaurant or something. Like, the stories
That's
get very...
relatively... It's like a Hallmark movie with different locations and slightly different people. And
Yeah,
that's generally
yeah.
what a lot of breweries wind up. But some of them lately have had some really unique kind of twists
I agree.
to them.
Which is
I,
refreshing.
Yeah, I kind of love it.
Just like this IPA.
Yeah, it is. I actually like it. It's pretty refreshing. So anyways, so that is Dogfish Head. If you are in Delaware, Maryland, or Virginia, you can go and get some of that on tap. And variety.
But you
of
can
beers.
find it. You can
find it here.
anywhere.
They distribute to I don't remember how many states, 30-something states. So
A lot of the
maybe
country.
More. Yeah.
That's great. That's cool.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Next.
speaking of ancient times, let's talk about something that every parent has had to deal with since children had existed in the
Since
world.
cavemen times, probably.
Yes. Discipline. We're going to talk about discipline. Yes. I cannot believe we've never talked about it. I think we brought it up to each other at some point.
I'm sure.
And I think we were sort of throwing around the idea of having a guest on while we discussed it. And I would like to eventually talk about discipline with guests in the future. Sure. But I think today we'll just kind of talk about what our discipline style is and what we think works and doesn't work and things like that.
Still trying to figure out what works and doesn't work. But yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what my husband
discuss.
said. When I brought it up to him, I was like, what do you think your discipline, what kind of tactics do you feel like you use? And obviously I've witnessed him parenting, so I know some of the things he does. And I'm like, well, what would you say? And he kind of ran a few things down and he was like, but I can't tell you that any of them work because I half the time these two don't listen to me. And I'm like, yeah, but I think everybody deals with that.
I think that's fair, yes.
However, that being said, I do have thoughts on discipline
Of course.
and my strategies with that. I'll start, as I usually do, by saying that as a child, while I thought I was a delight at all times,
Of course.
there were times where I needed to be disciplined. I'm sure of it. And most of those times I remember my mother was a bit of a yeller.
I unfortunately have become a bit of a yeller.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. And I was a bit of a crier as a child. So I remember many times getting very emotional and having my mother have to say to me, please stop crying.
Fair.
And it's a phrase that I bring up on occasion, and she's not thrilled to hear about it, obviously, as I imagine my children will do something like that with me someday, where they will bring up a memory that they have of being a child where
It was negative, yeah.
Yes, where I handled things in a negative way, in their opinion.
Fair.
So there was a bit of that. That was kind of my mom. Like I said, I don't remember being disciplined a whole lot. I don't remember my dad disciplining me. I remember that whole attitude, like, wait till your father gets home sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember there being an occasion where he handled a situation in a way that was like
Vastly
memorable
different.
or
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there were times where he had to stop me from misbehaving or, reel me in or
Sure.
something like
He had
that,
to
or have a
parent.
conversation with me. But I don't remember. It's not like he pulled the belt out.
No,
I
my
didn't have
parents
anything like
didn't
that.
do that either. Yeah.
With my kids, when they were little, and when they're really little, obviously, there's very little you can do to really alter their behavior too much. But when they got to that point where they could understand you.
When they understand right from wrong and whether they're supposed to do something or not.
Yeah, we did the count to 3 thing a lot, where we would do, kind of 3 strikes and you're out. We would give timeouts.
Yeah.
Where you would have alone time in your room. We used to have a clock. And I think I've mentioned the clock on the podcast years ago, when we used it years ago.
Yeah.
Mentioned it at some point when we talked about maybe baby things or something like that. And what the clock was, the face of the clock would be different lighted colors.
Yeah.
And you could hit a button on the clock and the face would turn red for a period of time. And you set the time. So it could be 10 minutes, it could be 20, it could be 30. You could change it whenever.
Yeah.
And that would be how long you were in timeout.
Okay, that's a good system.
It was really effective with my older child. He respected the clock. My younger child did not. The clock was soon removed from his room because there was no benefit for him. He just like had no regard for whatever color the face was. It would also had like a bedtime color.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't care about that. He didn't care about the timeout. If I put him in timeout, and to this day, and he's almost 9 years old, he will come out of his room and he will be like, please, when can I leave? Please, when can I leave my room? And he just has always done that. I think he doesn't like to be alone. Oh. So the punishment for him
is actually not being around people. Yeah.
Yeah. So he does understand that and does understand that he's being punished. Yeah. But he didn't really, the clock really wasn't doing anything for him. Now I feel like, or as they've gotten older, I feel like we still do the count thing where I'll still be like, hey, that's one. Watch yourself. Yeah. I don't count to 3 necessarily, but I, will give warnings. Yeah. I also definitely do resort to yelling.
Yeah, I unfortunately resort to yelling probably more than I should. So, yeah, we there are no memorable punishments as a child that I had. No, there wasn't anything that was extreme. I'm sure there were times that I got things taken away or like I got sent to my room or whatever, but like nothing that jumps out at me as a, formidable memory that I have of
like
that
a really painful
in
or
terms
bad memory.
Of punishment or things like that, discipline. For my children, yeah, it was a struggle trying to figure out what works best. My oldest being autistic and truly not understanding right from wrong as early as the twins, we're still at a stage where he will get a timeout. He got a timeout today after I yelled, but
yeah.
So
no judgment here.
Yeah, I try and refrain from the yelling as much as possible, but sometimes I texted my husband because he was with one of the twins at lacrosse, and I was like, these children are they're literally on my last nerve. Like, I just can't anymore. Like, I just can't.
I read something at one point that said that you should speak to your children the way that Mr. Rogers would speak to your children, and I did actively attempt to do that for a period of time. Yeah. I will admit, as painful as this is, it works.
I'm sure.
I only have so much in me, and the patience, it'll go away eventually, and then I got to turn into Batman.
Yeah, I definitely try, and I've been better about remaining calm in the last few years because, again, my oldest feeds very much off of whatever energy you are putting out. Okay. So even if he does something wrong, if I yell at him, he will just get even more agitated. Right. And not like angry, just like anxious, and it just will spiral. So it's not great, but I definitely yelled today. He likes to throw things in the air and watch them fall, which is fine when they're things that should be thrown. It's not fine when it's a Slurpee and it falls on the ground.
Oh, so no.
It wasn't a lot, but part of the whatever they do, whether it's that, whether they break something, whatever, we make them clean up and fix whatever it is that they broke or hurt or whatever.
Yes.
So even my oldest, who I truly believe does often understand when he's doing something he's not supposed to, I think his problem is impulse control, because the satisfaction of doing something overrides in his brain I'm not supposed to do this part.
Right.
He probably is an intellectual age of like 4 and he's 10.
Right.
So I have to remember that and not scream at him, even though my reaction is to yell. And so I got paper towels and I got the, like, you know, whatever wet mop thing. And I'm like, you're cleaning it up. Like, this is what we're doing. And then he was crying and I'm like, there's no crying here. You shouldn't have done it. Like,
we wouldn't be
sorry,
crying
guys,
if you didn't
but
do this
we
thing.
wouldn't be crying. You wouldn't be cleaning up if you didn't throw it. Like, that's what you need to take from this is we don't make a mess.
Well, cause and effect, right?
We
There's
do
got to
not
be
throw
consequences.
things. So we struggled for a long time to discipline him because we didn't understand whether he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Or not. And I truly think that most of the time he does. But yeah, so that was fun. And then he got a timeout. And then we don't, for him, it's a struggle because his retention is very short too. So you have to discipline immediately. If something happens at school and he comes home, I can't discipline him because he will not make the connection of cause and effect.
Right.
It's literally
something that
like
happened 4 hours ago.
Once it happens, if you do not react to it immediately, you can't react at all because he's going to have no clue what he did wrong or what he needs to fix.
Right.
So that's a struggle a little bit with him because he doesn't have the comprehension. With the twins, they are well aware of whatever they're doing wrong. Like they know, I'm like, you did this yesterday. And
remember
you
yesterday
never
when you
do
did this thing?
again.
Yeah.
And I'm taking away all of your electronics. Like, put them on the counter. You're not getting them.
Yes.
So timeouts don't work, or like going to your room doesn't work because they have all the crap in their room.
Yes.
So like go to your room and you're like, well, I've got a PS4 and a TV and all my toys and my books. Okay, well, that's not really a punishment.
So really it's just like a mini vacation.
Yeah. So like the twins are like, they spend most of their time in their room. So now I sit them in the hallway and I make them just sit there.
That's good.
Because
that's good.
There's nothing there. Like,
I like
okay,
that.
Great. You're going to sit in the hallway. That's where timeout is. Because
I like that.
I can't let you sit in your room. So yeah, so that's what we're doing now. I will say my children are fantastic. Like, they do not get disciplined very often at all. It is a rare occurrence in our house that they need to be punished for anything, realistically. And some of the times I'm realizing that we treat, and I'm realizing this more and more now, we treat them like they're a little bit older than they are. Like, my daughter got some random stupid, which she sent to your kids, like chain letter thing on Facebook Messenger from one of her other friends. And then she sent it to people because she had no idea. She didn't know better. Like, it was this thing about like love or God or I don't know what it was. And so she forwarded it to her friends. And I'm like, you don't do that. And she's like, well, why? Well, I don't understand. And like, that's a dumb example, but there's been things that are similar and like, this is the first time they're seeing, hearing, or encountering these things.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, well, you should know better. And then I stop and I think,
like, but should she?
I gotta ask myself. You've never actually done this, so this is what you need to do next time.
Right.
And if you don't next time, then you are going to be in trouble for it.
Right.
So we've had a lot of that this year, I feel like, than we have in previous years. Maybe it's the age or the interaction.
Maybe,
the friends are getting older. They're getting a little bit more independence. Everyone has a freaking phone now at third grade. I don't know why. But so I feel like they're getting more opportunities to do things, learn things, encounter things without us. And they're learning much more this year, like what is appropriate and what is not appropriate.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time in their age. But definitely we also tell them, like, if you do something that you're not supposed to, like, there will be consequences. We're not just going to let this slide. We're not going to let it, you're going to have some sort of consequence. I was talking to my friend the other day and we were thinking about getting the twins phones if they keep up straight A's and they do, for their birthdays. And she was like, well, because her daughter has a phone, she's just turned 10. And she was like, it's a great motivation for them to keep up doing things they're supposed to do. And it's a great punishment when they don't, because they want to have access to that, even if it's limited or you take it away at certain times. But it's as they get older, finding motivation of things to take from them is harder. Yeah. So it's not like they play with a bunch of toys anymore like they used to.
And this is a thought that has crossed my mind because I do have a lot of friends, yourself included, that will commonly take devices away.
Yeah.
For example, or
Yeah, we
or
do.
TV time, or whatever the thing may be that
screen
they
time,
like
whatever
care
they
the
have.
most about.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth on that, honestly. Yeah. Obviously, I respect the fact and agree that my kids value their devices. They do want to play Roblox. They want to interact with their friends. They want to watch videos. They want to do whatever. They want to play video games, whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And so if I deny them that, it is a punishment.
Sure.
And it's a pretty straight line, cause and effect there. You know, oh, you didn't do this thing. I asked you to do it. I asked 3 times.
Yeah.
You never did it. You didn't take care of it. Now you lose your phone for a day.
Yeah.
And there are times where I do that. There are times where I don't do that for the punishment. And I really go back and forth. I'm not at the point where I can tell you if I feel like one way is right and one way is wrong.
Yeah.
You're taking something away they value is a good way to demonstrate cause and effect and consequences of your actions, because if you do poorly at your job, you will lose your job. They will take it away from you.
You will lose something, yeah.
And if you speed on the highway too much, you will get your license taken away from you, and you can't drive anymore. And so these are the mild versions of adult
at that age
consequences that you would deal with if you were to refuse to change a bad behavior.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I go back and forth with it because there's also this part of me that if it's like Saturday morning and I take my son's phone away from him,
that's punishing you too.
I will die.
Oh no, I totally get that. We go back and forth because for a while I was like, in my head, I'm like, all right, what would be a punishment to me? And my husband's like, manual labor. And I was like, yeah, no, totally fair. But then I was like, I don't want to put that negative connotation on the kids helping us do things around the house.
Right, like
because
chores
it shouldn't
are
be
a punishment. Right.
Because I want them to be like, if I do this, I get a reward. Like the opposite.
Yes.
Not I have to do this because I'm in trouble. So it's a weird line of like, and I don't want like, I don't want pulling weeds to be a punishment because it freaking is.
Of course
but
it is.
But because then they won't want to help me do it.
They'll never do it.
Ever. Because it's like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have to do this. And
right.
so I don't want to put that connection. So it's like a weird dynamic of what I want to be a punishment versus, you know what I mean?
Well, and you bring up, you said something that's really interesting about reward. And that's something that I've been shifting my focus over to a little bit more often because the bad behaviors when my kids have started to get older are consistently kind of the same things. They're ignoring me.
Sure.
I'm go upstairs and take a shower because it's 7:30 and you go to bed.
Or I said clean your room 4 times and I walk in and it's still a mess.
The laundry isn't put away. You didn't clear your plate from dinner.
Yeah.
I asked you to do your homework before dinner. Now dinner's over. You never did it. Now you're complaining because you have to spend the last hour of your day doing homework.
Well, if you would have done it after school, then
yeah. And I can yell and I can punish for those things.
Right, but it's not.
But I feel like where my gaze is shifting toward rewarding behaving properly. And that's sort of what I've started to try to do in some instances.
Sure.
I mean, not all the time. Somebody screams in my face.
Yeah, well,
that's
if they do something extreme that isn't just, oh, I'm being lazy or I'm procrastinating, because don't get me wrong, those are not good things, but also they're understandable.
Well, we
things.
all do that occasionally.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if it's you did something that you knew was bad, those are the things that I'm you legit need a punishment for this.
Yeah, we gotta.
Day to day, hey, I've asked you 4 times to pick up the clothes that I just folded and put them in your drawer. I don't always do anything, honestly, for some of those things.
Yeah, sometimes you act on that, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's a yelling opportunity a little bit. You're kind of you're going to put this away right now.
Right, or it's a threatening, if you don't do it, now then I will do something. But often that final straw, they finally do it.
They will break and do it.
Yeah, so we more are in the discipline for, you did something that was more drastic, or you broke something, or you were completely irresponsible with someone else's whatever, or you were just a jerk to somebody. Those are the times that we're more mean. They warrant some sort of consequence.
A punishment. Yes. Yeah. Like I said, I do try to reward good behavior. My older son it's extremely important that he maintain a routine with the way that school is, with his homework load, with his personal hygiene, and things like that.
I swear to God, if I didn't tell my children to shower, they would go like 2 weeks without showering. I don't understand it, but that is where we're at right now. I'm like, when was the last time you showered? I don't know.
Don't you think you should?
Yeah, I don't. I
Did you
don't
fight
understand.
your parents on taking a bath
or
a
don't
shower?
think so. I don't
didn't
recall this. Like, I don't know why this is a thing.
Why is it a thing?
I don't know. I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't understand it all.
We're never going to solve that problem.
I will say, though, that even as an adult, though, so, be supervising people react better to being rewarded for good behavior than they do to be, not even punished, but criticized for errors or negative behavior. And that's an overarching thing, but typically it is human nature to punish for the negative, not to reward for the positive.
Right.
Like, overall, as a kid, as an adult, in work environment, everywhere, it's, oh, you did this wrong.
Yeah.
Not, oh, good job.
Yeah.
So that's a good point that, like, that is a good shift to move towards.
And that is something that I notice with myself at work. In a leadership role, I feel like, I can yell at somebody for coming in late today, or I could thank them for sticking around for some extra time because we had something we needed to get done. And I can do both. You could do both.
Sure.
But instead of yelling at them for coming in late, I say, hey, man, thanks for sticking around. I needed to finish that project. You really helped me out. Yeah. You did a great job.
You're going to get a better reaction, too, for that than you are them grumbling about, I was only 5 minutes late, blah, blah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I agree. And I think that does translate to kids, too. We just don't think about it in the same way.
Yeah, well, and it's much fun as it is for me to look at my watch when someone walks in late and go, oh, you still work here? I only do that with someone who could take the joke.
That's fair.
Rather than someone who would actually have hurt feelings about it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But yes, I do try to focus on rewarding good behavior. We do use logic a lot with our kids to try to explain, let's talk about the consequences. I also will occasionally try to jump ahead of what I think could turn into bad behavior.
Sure.
My kids are those kids that don't want to leave a place. And so when we go somewhere, I will say to them, okay, listen, we're going to hang out at this place until, and it's not always a time that I give, I'll say until we need to leave to meet up for dinner, or
whatever's the next
things
thing.
are winding down, or the people we're visiting have to be somewhere. We're going to leave. And I'll say, I'm going to give you a warning when we have to leave in 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then I will remind you again in 5 minutes, and then we will leave.
Yep.
And if I fight with you and I have to drag you out of there, we will not do this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will like pre-discipline a situation. And most of the time, and that's something I had to learn because I didn't do that forever. Most of the time, it goes better.
Much better,
when I do that.
Yeah, I definitely have done that more in the last few years of giving that, okay, we're going to do this next. And I think that really helps my oldest, too, to understand, like, something new or different is coming.
Right.
Versus and I think that helps for everybody. Like, you think, okay, I'm doing this thing. And then even in your head, you're like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm going to have to do this after this. And so even as children, like, they have that, and they want to know when they kind of have to wrap up playing and having fun. And it's not nearly as fun if you just say, okay, we're going to leave right now. And then they're like, it's kind of a shock to the system. Like, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Well, sure.
So,
and I mean, even as an adult, you were mentally preparing to leave for some period of time.
Right. Always. Yeah. Wherever I'm at, especially work, but always, like, even other things. So I think it's I think giving warning is a good way of handling a lot of different things.
Well, I think it's a courtesy. Like you were saying, like, if you and I were going to hang out for an evening, but you needed to be home at 9:30 for whatever
I would
reason,
tell you.
You would be like, yeah, dinner at 6 is great. I should have plenty of time, but I got to be home by about 9:30. And you would tell me that before 9:30.
Yes.
So that when you were like, I gotta go.
Yeah, you'd be like,
I wasn't like, I'm still eating my meal.
Right.
Like,
No, that's definitely.
yeah, I think it's a courtesy, and I think that I find, and maybe this sounds like a kind of duh thing to say, I find that if I'm respectful with my kids about discipline and being the parent and them being the child, that things in general go more smoothly. And I think that's what I've learned. If I had to say I've learned anything in the time that I've been a parent, because I don't know. But I think that's what I've learned.
Constantly trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Sometimes me and my husband look at each other and we're like, does anybody in this house listen? Like, at all? Like,
oh, no. I actually occasionally will say, is there something about the frequency of my voice? Is it like, can you just not hear it? Am I too high pitched?
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
Do
My
only
brother
the
would
dogs,
make a joke
the
right now.
animals hear me?
But,
Yeah.
like, is there something going on where you can only hear, like, lower frequencies and you can't hear me? Because I feel like I've been talking for 10 minutes. Am I not speaking English to you? Like, I will go into a little rant about how no one can hear me. That's got to be it. It's not that they're not listening.
No, it can't be that.
I'm literally not... You're not able to be heard.
Can't actually hear.
Yeah.
But there's definitely times in our household that we'll just look at each other and be like, no, literally nobody listens.
Nobody's listening. Nope.
And a lot of times it's not necessarily about critical things. It's about, like, again, can you put away your... Why is it always laundry? It's
because nobody likes to put
away
laundry away.
I don't
Lauren.
like exactly.
There's a reason why you don't just do it for them.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Because you absolutely hate it.
It's like the worst thing. I never like putting away laundry. But anyways, it's always that. It's like, here's your pile of clothes. Go put them away. And then they're like, 15 minutes later, what are you doing? Like,
so I see you finished your video.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that laundry thing?
So that's a lot of what happens in our household, which if that's the worst that happens, I will accept that for the rest of my life. But
yes,
I
will say, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I will say that just like giving them warnings in advance when you're going to leave somewhere or whatever, I will give them a little grace for my requests. So if I say to my son, I need you to put your laundry away, or I need you to do your clarinet homework, he'll sometimes respond and say, oh, I'm watching a video. It's got 10 minutes left.
Yep.
As soon as it's over, I'll get up and I'll take care of that. And as long as that plays out that way,
oh, yeah.
It's all good, man. 10
I
minutes.
Agree. Yeah,
we're not running a race here.
There
it's
are
fine.
a lot of times when I need them to do something, but it's almost never I needed to do right now.
Right.
And I think that we learned that a lot even with my oldest, because he is very much with, his diagnosis and whatnot, he needs to finish what he's doing, or he will
You kind of
have
need to get on
anxiety.
him about right now.
Like, well, if he's like watching a video and he doesn't get to the point in his head that he needs to watch,
oh, I get it.
He will get anxiety about not being able to finish, whether it's an activity, whether it's coloring a picture, any of that stuff. If I interrupt him and make him get up, it will be worse for everyone.
Right.
So we've learned over the years that, like, we need to let you finish whatever you're currently doing and not start, like, if you're watching a video, cool, finish it. You can't start another one.
Yeah, don't start another video, but
when you're done with this, then fine. And we allow that for pretty much everybody, because there's almost never a time that it's like, I need you to do this right this second.
Yeah.
And if there is, then I will communicate, no, I really need you to do this right this second. And then you can go back to what you were doing.
And the only time you get to the point where you have to say, do it right now, is when you've asked 3 times already.
Fair.
And now you're like, dude, put your shoes on. We have to leave.
Yeah. Well, that's also true when we're going somewhere. But yeah, I think that giving everybody a little bit of grace, because most of this is not critical. Like, if you don't do it right this second, nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, if I've asked you 4 times and then you don't do it, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But I think it's totally fair to say, yes, let's be a little bit flexible, finish what you're doing, and then please do what I asked you to do.
And they're children.
So they're learning. I'm sure I'm going to need to figure out some more drastic disciplines as they get older and do things that are worse, probably, in some capacity. So for now, we're doing good. And
Just keep adjusting, being willing to adjust.
Okay, what are we drinking?
We are drinking a summer sour made with boatloads of peaches. That is what the can says.
It's
called
a lot of
Fascina
peach.
Peche. It smells like peach.
It tastes like peach. Taste it. It's peach. It's a sour, tart peach beer.
I like it though.
No, I actually do, but it is loads of peach. They're not wrong.
Yeah. You could beer mosa this.
This is perfect for a beer mosa,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, this would combine very well.
The little bit of tart with the lots of peach and
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna bring this to
you
Michigan
could
with us.
beer mosa this. I will bring the cans that you have given to me, and we will beer mosa
Perfect.
it.
I love it. No, this is actually really. It's a very fruit forward, lots of peach, but not a difficult drink. It's not too sour. Like it's got a little bit of sour, but it's not overwhelmingly tart. Like
No.
I don't get that feeling like when you taste something you're like ooh. It's just a very. This is totally drinkable. Like I can totally drink this.
Yeah, these were great samples from Dogfish Head. So that was thank you for sharing them with me.
Yeah, no problem.
And we will catch everybody on the next one.
All right, till next time.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week and cheers to you all.